Welcome to the mind of Lancescurv, the most creatively profound man in cyberspace.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Lancescurv. We got a good one today. I love topics like this. I love deep, introspective, inward topics that we can bring back to our meditation when we really go in on ourselves. I love it. And although I can be a clown at times, I am a deep thinker. And I love to think about things that most people don't think about. And this topic was brought to my attention about a week ago. A dear friend of mine sent something to me on Starvation. It could also be called skin hunger and a multitude of other names. And when I watched the video, it wasn't too long, but it hit on points that were very profound. And I was like, wow, I need to talk about this. So, I have other topics that I'm thinking about all week and all the time. Sometimes they get pushed back. Sometimes some come to the forefront. But a lot of things come my way. And I want to thank you all for sending me different videos, different articles, because I eat them up. And it doesn't mean that I'm dismissing anybody if I don't cover that particular topic. I'm one person. I can only do it so much, but I try to do as much as I can. And even setting up for these shows across the different platforms and stuff, it's fun, but it takes time. Because especially this year, I said to myself, I want to take things to another level of professionalism and detail and across the board. And I think you all see the effort and the results that I'm putting in. And there's so much more. It's like January 1st hit, and I was ready and prepared from then. And look at us. We're already at the 18th of February. Time flies. There were things I thought I was going to have done halfway through January, but that's okay. Every step is not going to be 1,000 miles. Sometimes it's half a mile. But the main thing is that you move forward. Just want to say, Mr. Bright, welcome. Xavier Bright, Alicia, NFN Shaka. Yes. Wow. Virginia. Let's okay. We got the locations going on. I keep forgetting to ask about that, because when the show is over and people watch it and sometimes they look at the chat room, it's like, wow, that's a place close to where I am. And I love to see the reach, whether it's in the United States or all over the world, but my heart is in the United States. Even though I'm in West Africa, I still try to talk about things on the human level, but things that, we would find interesting because that's the core following is there. I'm not going to turn my back that way. But just the word touch starvation, before I started to do any research, I'm going to read some things that I collected and put together and stuff. I'm not going to read everything because it's kind of lengthy, but you can read along with me on Lancescurv.com. You'll see the article right there. But it opened up a whole new door to me understanding people that I knew in the past, people that I know now, people that I really didn't know but observed and couldn't figure out what it was with them. Sometimes I can be a little smart mouth, especially when I was younger. And sometimes I'd say to certain people, say, hey, you didn't get enough hugs when you were a child. That was cruel to say, but, when you're young, you're a teenager, I was always witty that way and saying crazy stuff. But there's some truth to that. That's something we need. And it's not just a matter of us in childhood. This is something necessary and mandatory. And I just want to mention also, for those who might just pop in and leave off, I just want to make this point that I'm going to bring up at the end and go in depth, that many of us feel that, how could I put it? I'm keeping it decent today. That men and women who are lusty and they don't understand why, it may not be that they're craving intimacy on that level, right? And it may not be intimacy when you get there. It might be just friction, but it could be touch starvation. It could mean you're not getting enough hugs, and you equate that with you needing the adult connection, the intimate connection, the physical connection on that level. And it's not always where you need that. Some of us are hurt from people. Some of us are healing from being around people. Some of us don't want that. And you can't indulge in satisfying touch starvation with toxic people either. So we have a lot to talk about. So I'm going to read this. And I put this particular paragraph out across. I'm just going to read it just to put it official for anybody who doesn't understand what's going on. We're living in a relentlessly fast-paced and increasingly digital world. The significance of human touch often goes unnoticed until its absence manifests in detrimental ways. Affection deprivation, also known as touch starvation or skin hunger, is a phenomenon characterized by a lack of physical contact that can profoundly impact mental and physical well-being. The impact of touch deprivation. Affection deprivation can lead to increased stress, anxiety, and depression, as well as a decline in overall mental health. Prolonged lack of touch may trigger negative physiological responses, including elevated cortisol levels, heightened heart rate, and suppressed immune function. Studies have shown that positive touch stimulates the release of oxytocin. It sounds like the other one that you get addicted to, right? Oxytocin, often referred to as the love hormone, which plays a crucial role in reducing stress and promoting well-being. The modern workplace and touch deprivation. Office environments. I scroll down here. Office environments characterized by long hours spent sitting in cubicles or at desks contribute to touch deprivation by limiting opportunities for physical contact. Remote work arrangements further exacerbate this issue as virtual interactions replace in-person connections, leaving individuals starved for tactile experiences. I want to add something in on that I didn't remember to put in. The modern workplace and touch deprivation. We're scared, especially the men. They're scared. They're scared to touch. I mean, that may not be a place where you go to touch. You keep it professional. But, like, you touch somebody on the shoulder, you're not thinking about it. We've got to be careful because some person might get offended. We got to be careful because a third party might see that and get offended. He touched her. Where did he touch her? On the elbow. And I was highly offended. You see how society is now? We have all of these different laws and, the Me Too movement and all of this stuff. And like I say, my movement is the not me movement because really and truly, I'm not touching anybody. But it's a shame. It's a shame. And on the flip side, I'm going to put it on the men now. Women do little things that are appropriate too, but men lots of times try to push the limit when they have other things in their mind, and that is what's messed it up for us. You can be a gentleman, and you can touch somebody properly if you have to. You make it a point. You touch them on the shoulder. You touch them on the elbow. You stand a safe distance from them. You make sure that they can see the doorway. I'm talking about a man speaking and communicating with a woman. You step away from being between her and that doorway. Even if the doorway is on the other side of the room, she has to be able to see a straight line. Or you put her between you and that doorway. She can turn around and get out. But you see what's happening with us? I'm going to continue on reading. The pandemic's impact on touch deprivation. Social distancing measures implemented during the global pandemic have intensified feelings of touch starvation, as physical interactions were restricted to prevent the spread of the virus. Isolation, coupled with increased reliance on digital communication, has exacerbated feelings of loneliness and disconnectedness, further fueling the touch deprivation crisis. Look, FaceTime, whatever you call it on whatever platform you're on, whether you're on your phone and it's Instagram or Facebook or YouTube or whatever, it does not rival having a person in front of you, having that type of communication, whether it's a stranger and you're conducting business, or it's a person that you just love to spend time with, or it's the person who you are intimate with in a committed relationship. It doesn't always have to go there, but you have that status with them. And because of that, you can feel it more in different ways without even touching that person. But just to hear their voice, and I feel, just to go off the beaten path to prove a point, I feel that we can have soul ties with people on different levels. Soul ties, to me, just doesn't mean the physical intimacy that adults do. That you can have emotional soul ties. You can have soul ties that were started in different, this is my theory. You can have soul ties that are started different ways, but they end up being a soul tie. Okay, you know, say you take a heterosexual male, and he goes to serve 4 years in the armed services, and he forms a bond, a camaraderie, a righteous love with some of the people, what do they call it, in your company, that particular, grouping that you have, and something happens to one of them, maybe something fatal, and this man feels like it's ripping his soul apart. It wasn't anything homosexual. It was just a love that you have from the person from spending time with them. For those who have gone to college and gone away from where they live more so, you depend more on the people that you're in class with. Not everybody, but you will always gravitate toward those who you gravitated toward, because when you first started, it was new. You didn't know anybody pretty much, and you form these bonds, and then you would go out on the weekend. That, to me, you can form a bond in a soul tie. We need that. So again, it doesn't have to be jumping into bed with somebody. You see what I mean? It's a full range of stuff, but we need it. We need it. We need that as human beings. In this society today, not just because of the pandemic, and not just because, social distancing, but that is part of the bigger plan. When I speak about the black family under attack, when I speak about spiritual warfare, like I said, it's the goal of this twisted system that many don't see because they're so distracted in it to pull us apart. And it's going to hurt us. It's going to starve us off a certain way, and it's going to leave our days not as satisfying. There's some more points. I don't want to jump the gun. Just want to welcome in Yvonne and Sharina. Thank you so much for being here. I don't think there's anybody I miss, and I'm going to be kind of turned away to another screen reading off my notes. So if anybody else comes in, don't, feel as though I'm ignoring you. Now, if the sound for some reason goes out, or for some reason my internet connection goes out, there's power outage, just give me like maybe 90 seconds to 2 minutes, and I'll be right back on through my phone. That happens a lot, these little glitches. So all right, I'm just going to let you know, be ready for it. Just wait, and I'll be right back. Okay. The pandemic's impact on touch deprivation. Social distancing measures implemented during the global pandemic have intensified feelings of touch starvation as physical interactions were restricted to prevent the spread of the virus. I think I read that one already, right? Okay, yeah. Connecting touch deprivation to mental health and social dynamics. The rise in mass shootings, and I was thinking about that too, and violent outbursts can be linked in part to the lack of nurturing and support that human touch provides. I can't remember where this incident happened, but I'm not sure whether this young man actually shot people. I think he did, but maybe he didn't. But he had, and if you can remember, remind me, like if you saw it, because I'm not going crazy. But they had some security camera footage, right? And this guy was walking down the hallway, had the big machine gun in his hand, and I believe it was a security officer. It was some black man that talked to him, hugged him, and the guy broke down, and that was it. He didn't do anymore. It wasn't a struggle. But usually, and I always thought about that, like what makes a person get triggered when they do something like that? Of course, you just don't get triggered because you're lonely. I'm going to go out and shoot people. But it could be an indication of the long-term effects and draining of your soul. And you see people in shopping malls or nightclubs, these people who do these shootings always seem to gravitate toward places where it appears that people are having fun. Because it doesn't always mean that people are having fun because they go to a nightclub. They appear to because they're laughing and whatever. But their lives might be tortured also, you know what I mean? But they're handling it by going out like that. Maybe they want to douse themselves in drinks or go try to pick up women or think they can, they're running too. Not all of them, but some of them. But it just seems as though these people who do these mass shootings and do stuff, they always seem to go where people are. They don't go off in the woods and shoot themselves. They always find themselves because it's almost like a resentment. Like, here I am, I'm lonely, I'm by myself, I'm suffering. And they don't know probably about, being touch deprived, right? But they're feeling the results of it. And then they go on and they're mad. So they're going to find some nightclub to shoot up. I remember back in New York City, back in 1977, you had the Son of Sam. And he was going around to lovers' lanes and secluded places where, people would park their car and kiss up a little bit. Not that they didn't have anywhere to go, but that's what people do sometimes. You're not ready to drop your person off yet. Or maybe you're heading on home. It's like, well, let's eat a little fast food here. You hear the music. You end up smooching a little bit and doing a whole lot more. Well, he would find himself in these places, and he had a specific type of woman that he went after. They narrowed it down. But they caught him in time because right before, and on Lancescurv.com, I'll drop maybe an article link there. Anything I talk about on the shows, I'll drop it on the website, so it'll be a little more better with the information than on YouTube, because YouTube, they trying to me and YouTube got a little thing going on. So I'll do the bare minimum to keep here, but I'm bringing everybody back over to the site. But they discovered him right before he had all of these machine guns and weaponry. He was going to go to a nightclub and show out and just go kill people, and they caught him in time. So could this be part of the reason? Yes, mental sickness, of course. But for me, when I see these situations, it always goes back to childhood and your developmental years, which will be the foundation, which you will still have issues in adulthood. I know people personally, I won't be too specific, but they're walking around unhealed and hurt, complaining about stuff from 30 and 40 years ago, issues that are dead and gone, but it's very much alive in their mind. So Indigo King, I see you come on in. Yes, welcome on, brother. Much love to you. Much respect. Yeah. Oh, I got to flash this comment for real. I got to flash this one. Xavier. That's a fact. People just don't know how to interact anymore. Years on lockdown was a detriment to social skills. And could you imagine years of lockdown and being incarcerated? That's even worse. So there's a lot of places we can go with this. Here's another one. Social media, offering virtual connections, often fails to replicate the intimacy and warmth of in-person interactions, contributing to feelings of isolation and touch deprivation. It's like eating junk food where, we here on this platform, we're really, really as close as we can be without being in front of each other, because we know each other, and those who are new, we always welcome them in. Knuckleheads get kicked out. And a lot of us already have a semblance of a life outside of being online, right? And that's why I try to bring a little soul to it. Sometimes I get angry, I say things. Sometimes I'm a clown. Sometimes, but I'm real. I'll jot my notes down. We'll talk, but I'm always going to be that person to really put some stuff in instead of just spouting facts or just want a monologue where you hear what I say. I like to interact. So before the show's over, all the notes I'm going to read, I want to make sure to get the work in. I'm going to throw the link out there. If anybody want to come in and ask something, you feel free to do so. I have no problem with that. We had a show last night with Sister Alice and her husband, and they spoke about the abuse from the UK social service system there. It's crazy. They took the children. They don't know where they are. So, this is the kind of things we do. So I said last night, okay, I'm going to get up. And I took my time today. Right now, for me, it's 3:19 p.m. I just knew I was going to do this show like 10 o'clock in the morning. But I said, well, why do it so early when over in America it's going to be real early? So I said, okay, I'll compromise and do this. So, I did a few things, and I knew I wanted to talk about this today, though. So it gave me a little more time to get my notes together better. You know what I mean? Okay, here it is. Restoring human touch in our lives. Prioritize physical affection in relationships, including hugs, cuddling, and hand-holding. Very important. Number 2, engage in activities that involve physical touch, such as massage therapy or partner dancing. Okay, that's a little more intimate, right? Number 3, practice self-massage techniques to fulfill the need for touch in solitary moments. sounds a little, okay. We can go other places with that, right? But that's one of the things I found. Massage yourself, crack up your back, touch yourself, get to know who you are, stretch yourself, stretch your neck. A lot of things we can do. Now, if you all want to go off and do something else, that's on you. Number 4, foster connections with pets who provide comforting physical contact. That is so true. And this is why, they make the joke of the woman who's getting older who doesn't have a man who has a house full of cats. I would never say that to be venomous, but cats, any animal, right? If you're into that, some people, I don't like animals, it's too much to take care of them. Or people are afraid to get attached to animals. Like, I went through that for a while because when I was growing up, I always had dogs, cats, everything, and it hurt me when we get hurt or just die or get sick. It was strange, but you had those connections. It makes a big difference. I mean, if you don't have anybody with you at home, it's nice to have a cat or two. I always feel funny about that, though, because I just couldn't have one cat. I never had more than one cat, but in my mind, like now, it's like, okay, if I get a cat, it's got to be 3 of them. Why? Well, 2, they might get bored with each other. So if there's a third one, if one has an attitude with one, then they can hang up with the other. I think we're that way, right? But I was looking at this video about cats and how they communicate with you and how you can tell when they love you, they do specific things. It was tight. If I find it, I'll put it on this page on Lancescurv.com, right? Number 5, communicate openly with loved ones about the importance of physical affection and seek out opportunities for meaningful touch. Well, we're going to have loved ones who just are not into that. They may have been traumatized, and we have to respect people's boundaries because, we just can't run up on somebody and just, I want a hug. I just want to hold your hand. Because explain to them. That's why they say communicate with them, the importance of that. And share this article on Lancescurv.com. It may give them something to think about. It gives us all something to think about. Number 6, incorporate regular exercise into your routine, as physical activity can help alleviate stress and promote overall well-being. And that's a cure. Well, not a cure-all for everything, but that's the thing that makes you feel better in every aspect of life, no matter what you're doing. That has to be done, especially as you get older. It doesn't mean you have to go in the gym or get up in the morning and break a couple of eggs in a glass and you hear the Rocky music and you're hitting beef and, it doesn't mean you go too crazy that way, because I've observed people in gyms when I used to go and work out many decades ago who were there all the time. And it really wasn't fitness that they were going for. They were lonely. When you try to overemphasize one category, one area of your life to make up for the other, and maybe not. Maybe you could just be doing that for that particular time. People sometimes get mistaken being workaholics, but they might be taking the next 6 months to get that down payment, for them to get a little bit more to get to the down payment for the house that they want to build. But if you don't know that, they got problems because they're workaholics. They're always over here. So we have to break down things and look and be careful before I won't say judge, but assess a certain person's situation, right? Number 7, participate in activities that promote community bonding, such as volunteering or joining clubs or sports teams. That will help to belong to something, to belong to a part of something. I mean, you have online groups like this one, and I have all kind of ways of us communicating the conference line. And when you want, just say, hey, Lance, I'm going to go over there. You don't even have to ask me. If you got 2 people that are going to go to that number or that link, you can talk. Now, I'm going to put it up publicly, so if you don't want me to do that, just tell me, hey, this is going to be something private. You can hear it, but it's private. And I can make it private, too, where we can, because I control all of that, where I can just block it from anybody else coming in. So those are the ways. If you feel really down, you say, hey, I want to talk to somebody. Let's set up something where I can do that. I'll do that for you. I don't want to hear anybody here suffering so bad from something, but it doesn't have to be public information. And after it's done, it's private. You can have the MP3, and I'll destroy it. You know what I mean? That you can hear over what others say. So it's just not a matter of doing shows for me. It's the interaction, but it's got to be respectful. It's got to be considerate. The gossip and the backstabbing, that we left that in 2023, right? Number 8, limit screen time and prioritize face-to-face interactions whenever possible. Yeah, you prioritize that. But if you don't have it at all, you're going to have to do the face-to-face, the screen time. That helps a whole lot. It really does. When you have an old friend on there, you're laughing, you're talking, you're telling some old jokes, it takes you away, as opposed to the endless scrolling and looking what's going on out in the world when the answer really is on the inside, and to have those real meaningful relationships. And you can start one. This whole thing with the cyber, I did a show on that. What do they call it now? I mean, you're looking for an AI mate to talk to, an AI lover to talk to. That's taking it a bit far. And for companies to make these apps up and to use the technology in that way really reflects on how far off we are. I'm not saying we're bad as a people, but if you go that far, you got to think, well, things are getting desperate. And that's not a put down to anybody, but I don't think anybody should go that way. That's one thing I'll say. You do what you do as long as it's not harming anybody else or hurting somebody else or putting yourself in danger. But to go that way, that imaginary AI friend, best you just use your imagination and talk to somebody imaginary that you come up with in your mind. Because that thing look, let me tell you something. You're going to see some crazy things from this AI cybermate type thing. I forgot what they call it, but you're going to see some crazy things because you see that AI learns your algorithm, what you like, what you don't like, and you tell this thing everything about you, and it adds on stuff. Chances are, if they like this, and they engage you in conversation, they know where to go to in the conversation, and you're connecting yourself to something that is not real. There's no soul there. There's no vibration. You can't get a soul tie with this thing. Not that you're looking to get soul ties with people, but at least a connection. So how's that going to work out? Really and truly. How does that work? And then you forget that this thing is not real, emotionally attached, and the next thing is, not to get off, but I have to talk about this, because we're all, not all of us, but to some level, all of us have experienced the lack of, not love, whatever. We know our folks love us, but we may be somewhere, not on a vacation, a business trip, or somewhere else for a time, and we feel the lack of that. We know we're loved, but we need the touch. So with those whorehouses in Toronto, I did a story on that. We did a video on that. That's not real. So what happens when technology gets so good that it can infuse a silicone body that looks just like something so real, that can talk back to you, that can be all that you want on an intimate level and on other levels, and this thing, they can probably make it walk around? People are going to be, who have money, they're going to be buying their perfect mate. Imagine that. That's coming. I always like to say things ahead of time. I'm not trying to be some guru. I'm not trying to be Nostradamus or whatever. But it's just a matter of time. You got this thing on your cell phone, this app that gets to know you. You talk to them every day. They wake up with you. Good morning. Your voice sounds a little. Did you sleep good last night? Whatever. Yeah, I slept good. Oh, your aunt's in the hospital, right? That's what's bothering you. That's intimate. You better have that with somebody. But a lot of us have been hurt. And so we put up the barriers. And so we just say, you know what, I don't want to be bothered with the world at all. And I can understand that because, if you're like me, you've been screwed over, lied on, cheated on or whatever. And sometimes you just want to get away. And that's normal to want to get away from the very human beings who, the good ones you may need a touch from in that exchange. It's going to come out sooner or later. But yeah, watch for that. So what is this now? February 18th, 2024? Is it going to happen in 3 years, 6 years, 10 years? It's going to happen. Because everything that, as far as technology is concerned, has been sex-driven. You understand? When VCRs first came out, do you think people or the industry, that industry was driven by people who wanted to see Star Wars at home or Rocky 1 at home? No. When those Betamax tapes came out and those VHS tapes came out, and my friend, I'll call his name Angela, he's always up on top of things, and he told me way back then, he said that was driven by the sex industry. And the same thing with DVDs and all of that other stuff. So you may not say that, and it has practical uses, But for the most part, most technology is always driven that way because of the human element and how men and some women think. You know, you could watch those things in the privacy of your own home. Now you can videotape your own stuff on your phone. It's crazy. Not to go there, but there are people who feel that that is what they need when all they need is the human touch. There are a lot of people out here living very isolated, and adult movies have become the replacement, but it doesn't give them any satisfaction. A platonic relationship with the opposite sex. Platonic. Somebody who really cares. Somebody who can hug you or you can cuddle with. It doesn't always have to go to the place of all the way. You can have a wonderful platonic relationship with somebody of the opposite sex, and it could be very satisfying. But there's so much that's pushed in our mind now about that. It's got to be about that. Somebody calls you up, hey man, did you score? Did you get through? It shouldn't always be about that, because you need to be able to emotionally drop your guard and not have to think that this person has a motivation. And then when things do happen righteously and properly, so be it. But I think the push is too much for that, because we as men, we see this stuff all the time. It's put in our head. And when it seems like there's an opportunity for something, we go overboard. And this is why a lot of women are afraid to really be intimate with us. Intimacy doesn't mean sex. You can be intimate in sex. Some people have sex and there's no intimacy. There's no closeness. It's just friction. And they have been touching, obviously, but it doesn't give them the satisfaction of a loving touch, because that alone does not mean love. And a lot of us, it's the wrong thing, but we register it as that. And yes, sometimes you need that feeling to be taken care of. But I think a lot of it is misdirected, and just, that's why we as a society, we're just really messed up. Sweet D, welcome on in. Kay Levy, yes. Let me just see this other comment. Okay. Xavier says, I was listening to a podcast where a guy was saying his mother just didn't like hugs or physical touch. He said it hurt him in the long run dealing with her. Yes. When you come from a household, and I'm not putting anybody down like, oh, you come from it. No. But maybe it'll give you insight as to how you have been affected. Whether you overshoot and think it's a sex thing that you need when really it's just those nurturing hugs. And maybe we have a distant father or a distant mother, and that affects us. And then, say, for example, the young lady who had a distant father, never hugged her, was never around, never showed her any affection. She's going to seek that out. She needs that. She's going to need more of it. And then when you had it, you know how to gauge what's real and what's not real when you get older. So and this is men too, right? When you didn't have it when you were younger, you feel around and you could be taken advantage of, because the vipers, the leeches on a spiritual and emotional level can sense that about you, give you the false version, get you open and get into your bank account, get into your home. You know, they need a place to live, and they're going to give you this false love. And oh man, it feels so good. Oh, you're looking for an apartment? You can come stay with me for the time being. And the time being ends up being a few years, and they take their time and get in your life. Now you got babies with them. It's a lot of stuff that goes on. And that's why I felt that this was very important to talk about. You know what I mean? So, number 9, creates opportunities for spontaneous physical contact, such as high fives, shoulder pats, in social settings. That's good. You keep topping it off, because it does something to you on a physical level. Number 10, seek professional help if experiencing persistent feelings of touch deprivation or associated mental health symptoms. And we, as black people, we got a problem. You know that line we say, I ain't crazy, I ain't going. So are you crazy if you take your vehicle to get tuned up? Oh, you make sure to get it tuned up because you want it to work right. You make sure to change that oil, don't you? You don't be blowing out black smoke and mess up your engine. But the same thing when you go to a mental health professional. We equate that with being crazy. Now, you go to the gym to maintain your body, you watch what you eat. Is that crazy? No, that's maintenance. Where are you mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually? We got to give gut checks on ourselves on a regular basis. This world and this ride that this world is going to give us is about to get crazy. So we better be straight with ourselves. We better know. You understand? Like where it doesn't mean you're weak, but where the cracks are in your armor and where you may be a little weaker. Doesn't mean you're going to stay that way. But if you acknowledge these things and work on it, when the stress comes from the outside, you won't collapse as easy as other people who are in denial, saying they don't need to go. Maybe you don't need to go right now, but always leave that as an option. And it's not always you talking to your girlfriend, ladies, or fellas talking to one of your buddies, because they may not be able to kick back the feedback to you on what you need to do. See, talking it out is fine, but can they give you professional advice? You see, you can go to the gym and anybody who's a member can say, hey, man, you got to lose some weight. But how? That's why you get a trainer who knows what they're doing, who can evaluate and take things in steps, alter your diet, make sure you're getting rest and hydration. You understand? And to do the right amount of exercises targeted to bring you back into the proper shape. But we have that stigma, and we ain't going. And this is why many of us are walking around broken down, nervous breakdowns, and then we don't heal all the way, but we come back enough just to have enough energy to get by, and then we end up with just an imbalanced life that's not satisfying. What good is the air conditioning system in your home or your apartment if the filters are clogged? That thing is going to be on and straining and straining. You're not going to feel anything from it because the filters are clogged. All it takes for you is to do a little maintenance and change the filter. That's all it takes. But we don't do that, right? Okay, let me see now. Did I read this already? Signs of touch deprivation. I'm just going to go down the list. I already did. I'm talking and doing this and whatever. So it's redundant. They always overlap anyway. Number one, persistent feelings of loneliness or isolation despite social interactions. See, despite social interactions, you still feel lonely. You're in the crowd and you still feel lonely. It doesn't always mean that it's touch deprivation. It could be that you have an underlying issue that's a little more major than that. But the way I look at touch deprivation, it's almost like a slow drip, the intravenous. You know, when you have this thing hooked up to your arm and the nutrition is going slowly in your veins. But it's the opposite. You're losing. And it's not something from your veins, it's something in your spirit. And as you go through, even if you have a major underlying issue, you still have that slow drain coming out of you, even when people are around you that you're not connecting with. And it's not to connect with everybody. Because I can go into a social setting or I'm invited somewhere to be with people that act nice, and I'll act nice back with them. But I can pick up the devious things. I can pick up how things can be false. I can spot the real ones. And sometimes like, okay, I'll say to myself, I'm going to be here for another hour and I'm bouncing. You know what I mean? Because you got the push and pull going on. Not that every group is going to be perfect. And it may not be them. It may be where their nice presence at that particular gathering is wonderful, but you got your own slow drip of a drain going on and you're not at full strength to be able to deal with them. You ever go somewhere where you're not looking to party, but you go somewhere because you're invited or you made a prior promise to go somewhere and someone in your inner circle transitions, but you promised to go? And it may not be somebody in your super inner circle where you just can't go. It might be somebody close enough to really affect you, but not enough where you're the one who has to deal with funeral arrangements. You understand? And so you go there and you're still shocked. And people are talking nice with you and you're acting nice, but you're a little and people start asking like, is that guy okay? Is she okay? Because your mind is a bit not there. And that's understandable. But when I say those little checkups, check up on yourself. Don't become unraveled and don't know how, don't know why. Like there's certain days I'm like, I'm not going out today. I don't really bother with people out there. I don't really bother with these spirits out there, you know, who are trying to hustle you, or not that I see the world as a negative place, but you're definitely going to get touched by those people when you go out in public. If you have to go out and make runs for the whole day, sometimes I'm sensitive. I don't want to go out. I don't want to be bothered with it, you know? And you're being fair to yourself to say that. Some days, and I'm not a weak person, but I know how to preserve myself, to keep myself strong. I'm not going to put myself in a position where I weaken, you see? But understand that other people may be going through this whole touch deprivation and they react in different ways, okay? Number 2, increased stress, anxiety, or depression without an identifiable cause. Number 3, difficulty sleeping or frequent fatigue. Your mind is somewhere else. You feel that drain. Because that's like spiritual and emotional nutrition. The touch, the hug, the being close to somebody. When you lean in and you're really close, maybe not romantic, but you know somebody is having an intimate conversation with you and they're really interested in what you have to say. Because when you're going through that, when you're talking to somebody who really doesn't want to be bothered, you can feel it. And you're talking. And they're like, Oh, what would you say again? Oh, hold on one second. Hey, Harry, I want to, and they always, and you realize they're not even listening to you. You see what I mean? So it's very important. That's why you got to communicate with people who won't do that to you. Because some people do that to you on purpose. They want to dismiss you. And we have the envious haters out there. And when you're going through this whole thing, you don't want to get the touch from them. Whether it's a physical touch on the hand or being intimate in a conversation with them or opening yourself up. You don't want that. Just discard of that. Because they're there sometimes just to do that and keep you in that drained place. Number 4, seeking out substitutes for human touch, such as extended baths or excessive masturbation. Well, that's indicative. The excessive masturbation, which usually accompanies with porn, and it's a false intimacy, and you get let down afterward. Your body feels good, you get the orgasm, we're talking real here, but there was no human touch. Oh yeah, there was human touch, it was your own, whatever, but your mind is all over the place. It's not the same energy, it's going out, you've lost. You see what I mean? And I've talked about that too on a spiritual level. You don't know what else is in that room with you when you're doing that. So there's something possibly sucking from you. Yes, pun intended. To keep you going back there, to use the fact that you just lack in human touch to pull you into some other addiction. Because see, the negative forces that we can't see in the world, they're assigned to us and they observe us. They're designated to bring us down. Just like there are positive energies out here that are designated to protect us. And I know I have a lot of those around me because all these years of my life, there are situations where there's no way I could have gotten out of it without protection. Not that I was a criminal, not that I was into anything bad, but just different things and situations where like, wow, people say, man, you were real lucky to be in that situation and come out alive. So loneliness and a lack of human touch can pull us into situations where we don't even need to be. You're lonely sometimes. You want to be around people. You settle for less. Sometimes you get around people that are not even on your vibration. And you find yourself there just for the human touch. And deep down inside, you feel like you're shortchanging yourself. You know you shouldn't be around these people. But you go anyway because, I was a little lonely. It's better than me being up in the apartment by myself. I'll just go out here, and you know when you're on full blast that you would not be around these people, not to put people down. You want to get around the people who are going to bring you up. If they're not available, don't settle for less. 5, craving physical contact but feeling uncomfortable initiating it. Well, that goes with our personality. A lot of us are shy or not as eager or we are afraid of rejection. If that's the case, admit it. Say, listen, I've been having a rough few weeks. I've been a little lonely. I really need a hug. It would do me good. And you know what? Maybe that other person feels the same way and didn't want to crack the ice or break the ice. And they feel that way. I mean, you see people at the airport and they're all about to leave, unless they're all like totally dysfunctional. they have some kind of exchange of physical touch. And you look for that. When you, I'm gonna tell you, when you start dating somebody or get close to them, where you consider them to be a little closer to you in your life, where you elevate them, you know, technically it's supposed to be about dating, courting, engagement, and then marriage. That's where it's supposed to be. Sometimes we date for one night and want to go get married like the next week, and you're jumping and you're missing, right? But when you see these people at the airport, they hug, they embrace. You dated somebody new, and you see that their family doesn't show the human touch. Not that every time. Listen, my Puerto Rican family out there, I'm not making fun of you, but you know, in that category, and maybe a different island, different place in South America, if one of them says, I'm going to the corner store and I'll be back in 5 minutes, they hug and kiss like they're going to be gone from each other for 10 years. And y'all know I'm not lying. I grew up in New York City around a lot of Puerto Ricans. A lot of Puerto Ricans are my good friends. I talk to them all the time. And realistically, that's the way it is. Not that we don't do that, but they are known for the way, come here, Poppy. Mwah, mwah, good to see you. Wait a second, I just came back from the store. I left 5 minutes ago. We need more of that. Because the way it is in the black community especially, the way we're trained and groomed by social media, things are put out there and we follow it and believe it as though it's reality. The black woman doesn't like the black man. The black man doesn't like the black woman. Passport brothers leaving the country to go to be with other black women or other women of other races and leaving the black woman behind. We need each other, y'all. What is all this? Is this true? Or are we being duped? And we talk about, Elon Musk wants to put this chip in a person's brain. They'll never put it in my brain. They don't need a chip to put in your brain. If we keep absorbing what they put out there, they will guide us into the trap of destruction. You got a bird that you're trying to catch. Let's see, a little crumbs, little pieces of bread or whatever. And you got a little cage, probably, let's say about 50 feet away. And you drop the crumbs 50 feet away. But at first, you put the crumb like a crumb or two of bread 2 feet apart from each other. And by the time you get to 15 feet away from the cage that's going to drop down on them and block them in, you put it 1.5 feet from each other. Then when you get to about 10 feet, 1 foot from each other. When you get 6 feet away, it's 6 inches. So the closer the bird gets to the trap, it's getting rewarded more. So you're not going to put them up further apart, because they may get full of what's there and not see the other bit. So now by the time it's in front of the cage, you're making it so comfortable in front of the cage that every inch there's a bit of crumb. So they're in front of the cage. Throwing more, we put more in front of the cage. It doesn't see the cage. Now you put a pile of it way to the back of the cage. Bingo, you got them. Algorithms, it's the same as the crumbs of bread. They're feeding stuff to us. And we watch it, and then more comes. Oh, okay, you like that? I'm going to put more on you. I'm going to put more on you. A friend of mine shared with me a video of a BBW, what they call a big, beautiful woman. It was a black woman, exercising. And he says, Lance, do you remember her? Because it was an older woman. I was like, yeah, that's the chick that used to come to the gym in Ridgewood, Queens, and she lived up in the Bronx. I know her well. She always exercised, and she always had a heavier physique. She was always had the heavier thighs and hips and everything. That's how she is naturally. And she was still the same way, except she was older, but she was very limber. She can put her foot behind her head, and she was grown back then. She could do splits. She could do all kind of things. But if you look at her, you say, oh, man, you see her in clothes, you see her hips, you see her backside, you think that she wasn't fit. She's hip too, though, right? So now when I looked at that, and I was looking for contact information because, we're not friends, but, when you get older and you see somebody that you spend a lot of time with, say, oh, man, I got to reach out to you. I couldn't find it. So I looked at more of her videos, and I said, okay, I'm going to just Google her because I know her full name. If not, if I find an address, I had one of my friends go by where she lives because she worked a civil service job for a long time, so I know I could find her. And I did eventually find her. But guess what? Because I searched her and different videos of her exercising, and she was kind of scantily clad, so that was part of the allure of her channel for these men who are not really just looking at her to exercise. I know the game, right? But that's okay. She wasn't too bad. I'm not going to knock a person's hustle. But when I went back on YouTube, I saw 4 or 5 different channels in that same category suggested to me. You see? It was like the bread to get me in the cage, close the cage on me. That's how this thing works, you see. So, with us and our lack of touch, and touch starve, and skin hunger, all the different things they call it, these algorithms can pick up on what we look at. And if we look at it a lot, whatever it may be, it's going to give you more. And it's very influential on our minds while we are separated. How do we know that black women despise black men and don't like them and think? Look, we know some. But if we treat our sisters properly and understand that they may have been wounded and take time with them, everything's going to be all right. And if our sisters understand what we have to go through, not everybody now, because we got some straight bums out here, okay? We do. I'm not going to give a brother a pass just because he happens to be black, right? But we have enough sense to discern how far to go and when to let people go. There are a lot of good people out here. And I know half of them in this chat room right now listening to this show. We got to really not be led the way that we're being led, because we're being led right into the cage of destruction while we're hurting and while we need each other. Because I often think also, like, what happened to the good old days? Let me tell you something. The good old days are right now. If we're all walking around wondering about it, and we see the YouTube videos of all the songs and different things that we like, that we have good memories with it, why can't we create those memories now? We can do it. But something has inserted itself into our mind. Hence, us being touch deprived, right? I went all around the world, let me come on back, right? Okay, did I say this one already? Avoidance of social situations or withdrawal from interpersonal relationships. Yeah, a lot of us will withdraw from that because a lot of us don't want to be hurt. And it's the hurt that we feel that makes us pull away from the very thing that we need. If somebody hurts you, you're not going to go back to them. But be careful who you open up to. These days, it just seems like they're a little more evil in this. You know, relationships are transactional. Well, if you want this, you got to pay me for that. Or what you going to do for me? What happened to all of us just putting a little money in our pocket? Not much. And just going out together and laughing and vibing and having a good time, telling jokes. You know, you can joke on me. I joke on myself. If I'm going to get a laugh out of you, not take things so serious. Not know where you're going to go exactly. You may say, hey, you know, we're going to eat this vegan pizza joint right now, but maybe a couple hours we'll hit this restaurant, but we don't know where we're going to go. We're going to go like we used to do, me and my friends. And any of my friends listening, you all know. Let's go to Manhattan. No direction. We're just going to go. You ain't got to bring much money. Of course, this is when we're much younger. Because, you know, when you're older, you want to have money and all that stuff and everything like that. I can't go. I don't have no money. But when we were younger, like when I was like 17, 16, 15, 14 years old, shoot. Back then, $20 was $1 million. Because I knew where to go to get a big meal for $4. I knew where to get some snacks. I knew where to get this. I'd come back with sometimes $8, $9, $10 in my pocket when I was a kid. And of course, our demands and our tastes and things expand and we want to explore. But it wasn't about the money. It was about that interpersonal relationship. We said things back in those days, my grouping of friends, we said things, we made certain jokes, there were certain funny moments that we speak about to this day. And we have amassed so much of that that even our FaceTime, especially with me, I'm in Africa. I have to wrestle with the thought of, am I going to see these friends again face to face? I will, create a willing. After I'm finished in completing this task, very soon I will be traveling. I can't announce it. I don't trust that. I'm not going to pop up on anybody. But when I get there, like, hey, this is where I am. Boom. Some of you all here, I'm going to reach out to you, right? But I'm not going to announce it. I say, hey, I'm going to be here for X amount of time, whatever. I'm not going to put videos up of me in America or anywhere else until I'm back home. People can be funny. You know, we have a lot of mentally deranged people. Oh, he's going to be at this restaurant meeting with people. Quick. I'm going to take care of him. He insulted me 14 years ago in an article. People have different perceptions. You got to be careful. It's still a dangerous world, but it's still a good world. We just have to beckon to the good people. We come out of our shells, and we really have the pure good times. Because like I said, you know, I miss certain times in my life, certain sections, and say, wow, I'd love to go back. But we can recreate that now. Because what are we going to talk about years from now? Like isolation, social distancing, pandemic? To hell with that. Yeah, there's certain things we might have to be careful in doing with all this crap that they are putting out there. We already know to deal with that. But we can still have the human touch. Still show the warmth. There's still people that I have in my heart that are not with us anymore. And the things that they said to me back in the 70s, back in the 80s, it still warms my heart over. So whatever connections you have, don't settle for the touch of a toxic person. Have the real touch. You see what I mean? The real thing. Right? Number 7, heightened sensitivity to tactile stimuli or a longing for physical closeness. Yeah. That's when you know you're touch deprived, when you really long for that. And it hurts when you yearn for it and you see others lightly indulging in it. You see the whole, you know, like when you break up with somebody, and you don't have source of the touch on that level, right? You're going to see, don't go to the mall because you're going to see people kissing, holding hands, hugging. And some people don't want to see that after they go through a breakup because they're touch deprived now. It may not be where it's right away where you feel that, but you don't want to put yourself in that position because you're going to feel more deprived. And it doesn't mean it has to be a romantic relationship, right? It can just be, you know, but those things really rub it in your face. Number 8, difficulty forming or maintaining intimate connections with others. Yeah, because you've been deprived for so long. That's like, and not to just pick on a certain race of people, but you know, in America, when you see Indians, Pakistani and Indian, they're usually like some skinny dudes, right? And many may be doing well, but a lot may not have been doing so well. So they're skinny. When they come here, they're skinny to America. You check them out in 2 or 3 months. They're still skinny, but they got a basketball belly popping out. You see what I mean? And they're not used to, I'm not saying everybody there, right? But when I'm just talking real. They come here to these all-you-can-eat buffets and things are cheap. Their bodies can't even handle it. They're not putting on weight overall. It's just right in their gut. Don't let them start drinking. So you see this skinny Indian dude with this like gut that just comes right out. Like a snake that ate something so big, much bigger than it, and it's a big lump. Well, that's the way people are emotionally. When they're deprived of that and they have problems. How are you going to digest all of this love and caring and touching when you weren't used to it? You see what I mean? Not to bring it back to sex, but it's the same thing. If you had a long stretch where there was no intimacy, not just physical contact and the mechanics of it and the acrobatics of it, but really opening up and being close to somebody, you got to take your time. So fellas, there's some women out here who haven't been. Take your time with them. Get them used to just walking around a little scantily clad and let that be it. Don't push it. Because to have a re-entry back into that facet of your life, even if it's that or even, okay, I have friends of mine. I'm 61 in April, right? I was always out there. Meaning that no matter what phase of my life, I'm always in touch with what's going on out in the world. I never allowed myself to be boxed in like, okay, I'm this married guy and I'm just going to go home and whatever. No, the energy. I'm an energy person. I like to give energy. I like to receive it. I want to see what's going on. I want to tell you some jokes. I want to make you feel light. I'm always in touch. But I have some friends that because of getting older, doesn't mean you're old. Like, oh man, Lance, you know, you're lucky you got somebody. You're married. I'm single, but it's hard out here dating. It's hard out here. You don't have anybody, huh? I'm like, listen, I'm not any expert or anything, but I'm going to tell you something. You're doing it to yourself. You keep saying this negative stuff. Just live, give energy. Energy will come back to you. Don't box yourself off. And I tell this particular friend of mine, too. I said, you can, if I was single, you can drop me in any city in the world, as long as it's English speaking where I can talk, right? I'm not saying nothing about no woman, like, oh, I'll get over. No, I'm not talking about that. But I will have people around me that I will attract because I'm giving this energy. You see what I mean? That's what it's been for me all my life. Doesn't mean I'm better than anybody else, but that's the secret. Don't sit in the corner. Oh, I can't do this. Yeah, at this age. Because there's other people who feel the same way. I just got off the car. I just had a conversation with a young lady who lives up in Cape Coast, Ghana. And she knew me from online. And I met her several times on a platonic level. And you know, there are things as a man that I'm going to be around her so people don't rip her off. I'm going to play like I'm her man. I don't have to put a hand on or whatnot, but the male presence, because I hear you'll get ripped off. But she was saying the same thing. Like, where are the genuine people who just want to have a good time and just go out? Right? Because we come with our complications sometimes. We're not saying anybody here, but we mess it up for ourselves sometimes because we're bringing this time. Well, I don't think so. Stop being so heavy about it. It may not be where you're going to be dating somebody right now or in the bed with somebody right now. Enjoy the time that you have now. Even if you've been out of touch for a while, as far as touch, take it easy. You ever find yourself so hungry? I mean, like real hungry. And I've said this before. You get up, you don't even eat any breakfast because you're like, I gotta get this done real quick. After I finish it, I'll eat something. Then something else pops up. You're like, it's almost lunch. I'll wait till lunch. I'll eat at lunch. And something else comes up. This is one of those freaky days. And you end up not eating until like 9 o'clock that night. Evil, because you're like, you're not acting evil, but you're like, I gotta get some food in my mouth. And then you get back to those old leftovers. You plan on eating this grand meal, and those old leftovers that you didn't want, that you throw out, but you put them in there just to not feel bad about, you know, you either eat them up, or if you do go to a restaurant and don't cook something at home, this big meal that you ordered, you only eat like 25% of it because you're so daggone hungry. But you wolf that part down. So you get around people and opportunities that have the human touch fulfilled, take your time. Because you may only be able to absorb a little bit of it and not all that you really need. You've got to saturate. You know, I used to tell this to guys that I used to train, and I've learned when I used to train and work out. Look, not to get too complicated, but say each day you must have a certain amount of protein, carbohydrates, essential fats, vitamins, minerals, and water, right? You don't wait like to the end of your day to eat down your whole allotted amount of calories because you're starving your body, you're starving your muscles, you're starving everything, and you're not going to absorb all of it. Shoving it all down, the whole day's worth of nutrition, you're not going to absorb it. You have to do a little bit at a time. And that's the same way it is emotionally, spiritually, mentally. For you to be able to absorb all of it. And when you do it that way, when you shove everything at one time, you're going to have digestive issues. You're not going to absorb everything. It's going to go right through you. You take your time and keep it steady and saturate your tissues with nutrition throughout the whole day. That's the same way as indulging in the human touch. Even though you need it really bad, you need that. We all need that. Well, I'm exempt from this, Lance. I don't need it at all. We could be topped off. where we're satisfied and content, where if we were in isolation for 3 or 4 days, it wouldn't really bother us. But some of us, again, like we said earlier in my notes, you could be in a room full of people and still feel that deficiency. It's really, really something. And I have so much more to read, but I'm not going to even read all of it. You can see what I wrote and what I have there on Lancescurv.com, but I have a few more that I want to speak about, and then I'll open the lines and see if anybody wants to join in, you know. Okay, let me see. Number 9, feelings of emptiness or lack of fulfillment in personal relationships. Well, that's like going for a Sunday drive and you don't have enough oil in the engine. You're scraping. You know, everything is rubbing together hot. So if you have those feelings of emptiness, that's an indication that you have it's a big sign of touch deprivation. And you're thinking something's wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. You know, you got to have the energy and the fulfillment entering into being around people in personal relationships. You have to admit to yourself. You know, I mean, there's things that we have to admit to ourselves in this life. Sometimes if we spend too much, and say, listen, I need to cut back. I'm messing myself up. I can't pay my bills, but I have this impulse spending thing going on. We got to face ourselves, no matter what it is. We'll be a better person for ourselves, and we'll be more comfortable in our skin. You see what I mean? Number 10, physical symptoms such as muscle tension or headaches, often associated with chronic stress or anxiety, which can be caused by something else, but that can be just signs of touch deprivation over the long haul. Then it can be a combination of things. You can be walking around touch deprived, and a major incident happen or loss of a job, of a loved one, a foreclosure, and you have to get out within a certain amount of days. These things, they add on and will push you over the top. Like we said, a lot of people out here, they go want to shoot people up, or they want to shoot their wife, their husband. They want to kill themselves. And usually it's not that bad, but because of the way they feel and the way they see this life, it's really, really bad. Sometimes a hug will make a difference. Just like the guy with the machine gun who either finished shooting up people or about to shoot up people, got that hug from that black security guard who thought to himself, that was a wise man. Maybe he only had an elementary school education. Who knows? Maybe he was a college graduate. Who knows? But he had the sense to know that there's more to it. Like this guy, killer, he wants to shoot. If we react a certain way that's not balanced, it's usually that we're in some pain, and it's been something that's slow burning for a long period of time. Let me tell you something. I was down at the market the other day, and I put some of the footage up. I have more like splintered footage that does make sense. I'm going to put it up so you can see it anyway. 5 minutes here, 2 minutes there, whatever. And I wanted to get some new, like, rubber slippers, you know, the toes out and everything, to walk around the house. I have different types of shoes designated for certain things, because when I go out in the backyard, it's dirt, it's mud, but I want my feet to breathe, so I have a certain pair of Crocs for that. But that's not the Crocs I'm going to wear when I go down into the city. Of course, I wouldn't wear my shoes back there. So I said, okay, this is just for being in the house after I come out of my Crocs, and this is not going to touch any dirt or anything else, right? So I went down to this lady. She was in the street there. She had a little place, you know, had a gazillion little different types of shoes. I said, listen, the only thing that it has to be black. Don't give me no pink shoes. Don't give me no rainbow shoes. Don't give me nothing, no army fatigue, whatever. I just like to wear black on my feet with stuff like that. She said, okay. So she gave me these other ones. Look pretty good. I was like, man, I have a size 12 foot, and my foot is very wide. I'm only 5'10", but I appear to be shorter because of the weight that I have on me, right? Kind of husky, right? So I finally found a pair of slippers that I wanted to have something Croc-like. You got all kind of different things out here. So I settled for those. I said, okay, these feel pretty good, but it wasn't really the right size. So I'm walking around doing the chores around the house, going here, and I had those on. And I did go outside real quick. I can step in the dirt over there. It wasn't going to, like, mess them up. But I didn't realize half of the day, my toes were in pain. Now, it fit just enough, but it could have been a little bigger. But I ignored that just to get a pair of slippers that I wanted to have, made of some rubber material, right? So what I was ignoring all day long, or half of the day until I realized it, that my big toe was rubbing up under the part of the slipper where, it covers your foot. My toes are out. Not only was it rubbing, but it rubbed the flesh off my big toe on both of them, and it was bleeding. It was like pouring blood out, but it was almost like it wasn't infected. But when you're infected and it's not just blood, but it's just like fluid, thick. But it wasn't infected. I was like, oh my God. So I went, washed it out, put some hydrogen peroxide on it. It stung. And I put on my other shoes and I was okay. Now, why am I telling you about my feet? I'm saying this because we can walk around for years, touch deprived. We can walk around for a long time, ignoring the fact that there's some pain and discomfort. You see? We can lie to ourselves. We can do other things to ignore it when we know we got a problem in that one area of our life. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just saying that's just what it is. Now, I'm not going to read all. I got a whole lot more. Well, it's not so much, but leave a little something for your imagination, and you can go over there. And that's the first posting in this chat room. There's the one to join the WhatsApp group that I always put up, but the one that has the link to the actual Lancescurv.com blog post of this particular show. So everything that I read is right there, and I'll be putting some other things in there that I spoke about. And I'm going to wrap this down, but before I do, I just saw this. Can't have my feet hurt. Wow. Katrina, welcome on in. Viewstar TM. I'm going to put this link out if anybody wants to come in and say anything, and I will soon sign off, but I'll always give you that opportunity unless I'm in a big rush or something, and I will never really want to do a show in a big rush, and we'll do things that are, okay, let me really drop this here. I forgot. I was on a PC, and copy and pasting is different on a Mac as it is. Okay, there it is. Okay, let me hit this. Anybody wants to come on in, you can come on in and say something. I'll just look at some of these. Janet Gaines. I didn't see you. How are you? Brother London. Okay, there's a few comments that I missed. Viewstar TM. I'm always like that. I'm always speaking on things that people are like, I thought I was the only one. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah. You get brainwashed. You're right. They know what to keep showing. And I'm quite sure there's some kind of 6 degrees of separation between us. It's always that way. Just like when Gina was on the show yesterday and I mentioned the toy store Uncle Jack that was closed from like the 70s, mid-70s. Saying, I know Uncle Jack. I'm like, whoa, you just never know. There's a link, y'all, if you want to have anything to come on in and say. I'm going to try to do a recording later on. Remember, we have Neil Frazier's show tomorrow, and that's at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which will be 8 p.m. for me, and so on and so forth over to the East Coast, which I think is going to be West Coast, which is going to be like 12 noon. This planet is big. Time zones. Whoa. Could you imagine? That's what it is. But even if you don't come in, it's okay. Just leave a comment on the blog, not necessarily YouTube. The blog posting for this one is up top. And there are other topics that I want to talk about, human nature and different things, specific things. But too many of us, we're so caught up in the generalized things that are presented to us. And that's wrong, you know, because we don't get a chance to really get down on things that are really, really, really important, that mean something to us. We miss that. It's like missing maintenance because you're distracted. Maintenance on your vehicle, maintenance on your home. It shouldn't be that way. We should be tuned up and ready, and that's why we need that good meditation time. Just quiet time. And like I always say, find some time to be bored. That's the sweetest time because it cleans out your filters, your emotional filters. You know, being bored in this life where there's so many things being or bombarding our subconscious mind, that's a luxury to be bored. You know what I mean? Not all the time. You don't want to live a boring life, but have some time you say, you know what? I have nothing to do right now. Not that I want to do anything. Just sit there and just zone out. Let thoughts flow. Let your mind go where you want it to go, like that. And that's a beautiful thing, you know. But I'm going to sign off right now. And who knows who might call me. We do a show. Mr. Political called me. We were supposed to do something a few days ago, but he called me right before the show. And I'm going to call him back to see if he wants to put something out there. But I definitely want to put something out there on a recording level, maybe live. But doing it live is a lot of preparation. You want to have everything. Because look, y'all, I didn't just make one banner for this show. I created like there's a second one there. There's a third one there. So when I'm in position, I go crazy. I love it, though. That's the way it's supposed to be, you know. But anyway, I'm going to look at this comment section one more time. I'm going to sign off. All right. So listen, I'm going to head out, and we will have something coming back. But for now, we're going to just leave it at that. And I'm just going to say I'm signing off. Much love to you all. Lancescurv out. All that good stuff. And peace.
Make sure to go to Lancescurv.com, an online magazine established in 2001, containing written articles, thousands of talk shows and discussions, cutting-edge cartoons, as well as erotic expressions and tasteful adult photography. It's definitely not for the faint of heart. Once you get a taste of the world of Lancescurv, trust me, you'll be back for more. Lancescurv.com. Bold, raw, and uncut.